Browns starting their week of practice as they get ready for a trip to Los Angeles to face the Chargers at SoFi Stadium, Mary Kay. And we talked to Baker Mayfield today, and he admitted that he was wearing a harness on that left shoulder. And I've got to ask you, do you think that, whether it's the injury or the harness, do you think that's affecting him at all?
You know what? I'm going to say no to that. It's definitely protecting that injured left shoulder, but I don't think it's impacting his throws. In fact, I worked the phones a little bit yesterday. I tried to talk to as many people as I could about this issue, and from what I could gather, the shoulder definitely had nothing to do with his inaccuracy in the game. That's what I've been told. So I'm going to take these people at their word for that. Baker seems to think it had nothing to do with it. Let's roll with that.
Now, you also talked to Dan Orlovsky, and he brought up the Odell Beckham Jr. connection, and he seems to think that Baker was sort of locked in on Odell. I know that we've discussed it and it didn't seem like maybe he was, but it seems like Orlovsky disagrees.
Yeah, he watched it pretty closely, and he feels that Baker reverted to some old habits, to last year and the year before, where he did sort of press a little bit to Odell in terms of just hanging on him too long instead of going away from it, and that he seems to think that instead of getting the play and figuring out who's going to get the ball, he's getting the play and figuring out Odell and then what the play is. So thinks maybe he has a little backwards there, and they have to nip it in the bud.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. How do they do that? How do they fix this then?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, and I really think this is important. I think that they should not make too big of a deal out of it right now. I think it was one bad game on the part of Baker Mayfield, perhaps. I mean, we'll see over the next couple of weeks. But if it does start to get into his head and he starts reading it everywhere and seeing it on Twitter everywhere, then it does grow larger than life. I think they need to shrink it up and just go out and play some football.
Couple significant injury stories as well. Greg Newsome II will miss his second consecutive game. Kevin Stefanski ruled him out, so it will be Greedy Williams getting that start again at corner. And then also Jed Wills. It turns out, as you reported, he did not need that MRI. That ankle injury is not real serious, but still maybe iffy for Sunday.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with Greg Newsome. Again, it's one of those things where coach ruled him out right on Wednesday. It's not going to be a mystery, but Greedy had a great game, obviously, made the defensive play of the game, came up with that big interception, so good for him. He showed the moment's not going to be too big for him. He has to play against Justin Herbert. That's going to be a tall order. As far as Jed Wills is concerned, you're right. He did not need the MRI. It's not super serious, but as you mentioned, he is iffy against the Chargers because he's so gimpy on that ankle, and now Chris Hubbard is back in practice, and I think they feel a lot more comfortable letting Jed sit, if he has to, with Chris going in there.
Yeah, Stefanski said that Hubbard's status maybe wouldn't play a role, but I don't know. It's tough to believe that maybe that wouldn't be a factor in their decision-making with Jed Wills moving forward. One other quick note, Anthony Walker designated for a return. They'll kind of keep an eye on him in practice this week to see if they'll activate him for Sunday's game. We'll cover everything that happened here in Berea. It's all at cleveland.com/Browns.